Okay, I want to call to order. This is the joint committee meeting with Budget and Finance, Planning, Historical, and Zoning as it relates to the fiscal year 1920 capital improvement budget. I want to in advance thank our department heads for being in attendance. I'm Councilwoman Vercher, Chair of Budget and Finance, and I will turn it over to Chairman Bettany for comments, and then we'll proceed with our brief presentation from the Planning Department.
Welcome to the joint meeting. Thank you, Councilmember Vercher, for giving me the floor. I just want to welcome you and encourage you to help us improve this process. We saw at the last meeting that that we can do better. So let's keep working at it. Let's make sure that we have a way to decide how to use the city's resources in a way that is equitable for the whole city. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairman Bettany. I also want to thank council members and committee members that's in attendance also. And Mr. Claxton, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you. Council members, you can click on your display. You should be able to see the presentation on your tablets. Try it now.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I've got a brief presentation on the update on kind of how we manage and process Council's requests for the FY20 capital improvements budget. Just as a reminder, the charter requires the Planning Commission to develop a prioritized list of capital improvements each year. For inclusion in the CIB, a capital improvement is any building, structure, work, or improvement with an average life of over 10 years and a cost of greater than $50,000. A reminder on the role of the capital improvements budget. Any capital improvement that Metro makes must be included in the CIB. However, being in the CIB does not guarantee funding. The CIB only lays out what Metro could spend money on. The CIB includes 6 years of projects, but because it's readopted every year, it only limits the first year. With the CIB in place, there is some other council action is necessary in order to actually allocate money through general obligation bonds, revenue bonds, 4% funds, enterprise funds or the operating budget, or federal or state funding. This is the second year of a revised council process for requesting projects in the CIB pursuant to the revised Rule 17 from last year. That process is that by October 15th every year, council members submit CIB requests to the Planning Department and Council Office. The Planning Department then distributes those requests to departments that would be involved in implementing those requests, either because they would be carrying them out directly or because they're implicated in some other way and may need to review them. Those departments review them to comment on feasibility, alignment with their master plans, and to develop cost estimates. And we ask departments to break out their cost estimates by, whether a plan or study is needed, land acquisition or right-of-way is needed, and then the cost to build or purchase the project. While they're doing that assessment, the Planning Department also maps the projects and assesses them against Nashville Next. We then compile all of that information back together into a report that we provide to y'all by December 1st every year. At that point, this joint committee is tasked by Rule 17 to develop the council's prioritization for your requests. By about mid to late January or sometimes early February, departments submit projects into Hyperion for inclusion in the CIB. That includes Council Office starting last year. During February and March, planning assesses all of the projects from council members and departments to begin developing our recommendations. At the same time, General Services and ITS in particular develop cost estimates for departments that don't oversee their own capital construction. By the end of April, Planning Commission recommends a prioritized CIB to the mayor. By May 15th, the mayor submits his CIB to Metro Council, and then Council acts on the CIB with or without amendments by June 15th. Because last year was the first year that we went through this new prioritization process, I wanted to show you how that played out, both a little bit of the numbers that we went through and then how that landed in the final CIB. Council members requested 298 projects for potential prioritization last year. Out of that, 161 were ultimately prioritized. And the way that was communicated back to the planning department was just a rank order 1 through 161. These are council's priorities. Up on the screen, I've got an image of one of the pages from the CIB last year. I'm going to zoom into one main section where we talk about what the project is, the description, and then 4 different ways that, 4 different kinds of prioritizations that were applied to different projects. And this is just an example picked pretty much at random. The first one is what's called the Capital Prioritization Group. This is a categorization of kind of focus areas from the mayor. In this case, it's public safety. There were 3 or 4 others, such as community and economic development or transportation and infrastructure. The categories are identified by the administration, but the projects are put into those categories by departments. The second is Planning Commission's priority. This is what the Planning Commission votes on and recommends to the mayor. We break projects into 5 tiers: recommended as planned, or recommended as planned if funding is available. Sometimes, in 1 or 2 cases, we have recommended that further work is needed, that projects are outside of the purview of the planning department, and so we don't weigh in on them, or that a project is in conflict with the general plan. Next, if a department has assigned a priority to a project, we convey that as well. And then council priority, 4 out of 161 in this case. And then we also identify any council districts that might be affected by the project. So our goal is to try to bring all of that different views of prioritization together into one place so that they can be reviewed by the administration, finance, council, or the public. This year we had 250 projects submitted for as requests by council members. Just to give you a sense of how that breaks down, these are the departments with more than 1 request. You can see most affect public works, with parks behind, and then MNPS. In the report that we provide, it's organized by council district. Each council district starts off with a map of all of the requests within that district, and then each project gets its own page. In the upper left, we have a unique ID to help us tell projects apart, as well as the title, any need or details that was provided to us by council members. Below that, we have department comments. Then below that, we have funding estimates, where, again, we ask for the departments to provide that by phase as necessary, as well as a recommended year. Generally, departments recommend a year if they have already incorporated that into their own request in some way. If they don't recommend a year, we default to having that in the first fiscal year. And then in the upper right, we have planning's assessment, where we report on how each project aligns with the Nashville Next Guiding Principles, our efficient government factors that we look at, the growth and preservation concept map, and then for projects where we have a large number of comparable projects, such as sidewalks, we also assess what we call kind of cost effectiveness, which is the number of people we would expect to be served by that project divided by the cost. And we just rank that into high, medium, and low based on comparisons to other similar projects. That's my presentation on the council request process. We wanted to also give you a brief update on kind of how our thinking about the CIB is evolving, how we try to make it sensible and kind of make sense from a long-range planning perspective. This was a chart that we included in the CIB last year for the first time. It captures how we're trying to think of the CIB as a collection of ongoing programs rather than individual projects. So we've taken, for example, all of the school renovation projects and grouped them together. You can find each one individually, but you can also see kind of a total for all school renovations. And then we show how that breaks down for the first fiscal year, as well as all 6 years in the CIB. And we've done that to try to bring a little bit more structure and make it easier to understand what all is going on within what is a very large list of projects. As we've done that, we've started talking with departments about the importance of conveying through the CIB what their needs are for the future over the next 6 years. That's important to convey. But we're also starting to talk with them about how they go about prioritizing their projects. Out of all of the needs that they have, how do they set their highest priority? And one of the things that we're starting to shift to thinking in terms of is what has been their level of spending over the past 6 years? And can that be one of the ways one of the things that they use to prioritize over the next 6 years, so that there's some sense of this is their overall request, but this is maybe in line with past spending, this is what they would prioritize. That we just wanted to provide an update on that as we continue to think through kind of how the CIB operates. And with that, I'll pass it back for y'all to talk about your prioritization process.
Thank you so much, Mr. Claxton. Chairman Bentley, you have any comments?
Sorry, I turned it off before.
Don't turn it off. You're going to stay on.
I just want to bring it to your attention that any adjustments we do to Nashville Next or other documents that we use in combination with this do have an impact on funding. So as you look through next year's efforts in your communities, keep that in mind, that everything we do is connected with this new way of assessing how we spend our monies. That's it.
Thank you, Chairman. Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Chair. So I think here's the part I need to ask the question of from the Planning Department and perhaps the Finance Department. So I'm in my 7.5 year here in the chamber. I have been asking repeatedly. In fact, under the Carl Dean administration, we had money that was dedicated for a turn lane for Central Pike. I know this is going to shock everybody, but we still haven't started that. So when we have these things, and the reason I really wasn't available this afternoon, but I wanted to make sure I was down here in order to be able to listen to how we talk about prioritization and all of these other pieces. You know, there's 35 of us with our districts. When we see a need in our districts, because that's kind of the reason we're elected, is to look after our districts, and we lay it out, and then we get money allocated under a mayor's term, the last mayor's term, prior to, under Carl Dean, and it still doesn't happen. How do we keep moving these things forward to make sure stuff happens the way it's supposed to? Because, gosh, I've been around this for a while, and I still hadn't figured it out. So if somebody can help me with that, that'd be phenomenal. So I can explain it to the people in my district on why, when I already had $500,000 allocated for Central Pike expansion, a turn lane, why, almost 4 years later, the only thing we've done is put out some wooden stakes. So I don't know if that's planning, I don't know if that's finance, but gosh, I look forward to listening to this answer.
Mr. Jameson.
I'm neither one, but I'll tell you the far better position that you're in now that you were not in previous council terms. I served on the council for 2 terms, and this exercise consisted of us submitting our requests, and that was pretty much the end of it from council's collective perspective. It was then taken up in the worst possible crunch time of the operating budget consideration. So the 2 dramatic changes that this body, and this body alone, has made in its 50-year history is that, number one, you submit your requests, and this body, for the first time last year, came up with a single, unified, collective prioritization list numbered 1 through 161. And for the first time, you can now turn to the administration, but more importantly, you can turn to each other when you eventually approve the CIB budget on June 15th. You can turn to your colleagues and say now, this was the #1 project, or this project was prioritized over your project, fellow council member. Please give that due consideration. In the 50 years prior to that, I don't mean this the way it sounds, but it was too easy for administrations to play one council member off of another, because you had your list of priorities and the councilmen on either side of you had their list of priorities, and there was no way for you to be able to tell the administration, mine's more important. Now this body does the hard work and comes up with that single prioritized list, which you have now for the current fiscal year and you are working on now for the coming fiscal year. The second thing that this body did was the practical maneuver of doing your homework on this now and not waiting until May 15th. because it always fell between May 15th and June 15th, and you just scrambled to get to curry favor with the administration, to generate public enthusiasm for your particular project. But now, sometime in January, whatever date we are assigned, you will have a prioritized list submitted to finance, and you will be able to turn to your colleagues and say, this was ranked whatever it turns out to be ranked. Now, maybe it's not prioritized by your colleagues, and that's just a reality that you may have to deal with. But if it's highly prioritized and if it exceeds other programs that are on the spending plan, that's a pretty good argument on June 15th to make to your colleagues and amend the budget if necessary as adopted, or convince the administration to revise it. But until this term, you didn't have either of those strengths or capabilities, and I think that's a pretty good place to be in.
Okay, well then, let me apologize because I didn't ask the question apparently properly. I have a signed document from the Dean administration that says we have $500,000 to do improvements on Central Pike, a turn lane. We're now 3.5, almost 4 years into it from when that occurred, but yet the only thing we've seen is the wooden little sticks and some little flags. And I've met with the state, I've met with Public Works, and I've met with everything else. So while I appreciate the fact that we keep trying to talk about prioritization and trying to get there, I actually had something under the previous administration that was supposed to come into my district. So how do we in this body keep our projects moving forward when supposedly we are supposed to be able to take each other's word from the administration and the legislative body that it's going to start happening, but yet it hasn't. So that's why I keep asking, and I really, it may be wearing you out, but I'm real sorry because it's wearing me out, asking the same questions repeatedly. Because, and I'm down here the Thursday before Christmas trying to figure out where are we and exactly, because the other night we heard that we've got a process here. Well, do we or don't we? I've got a letter signed and I see no action. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. How do I advocate? Because we didn't have the stuff for the fairgrounds and various other places that was supposed to take place prior to this happening under the Dean administration on my little 800 to 1,000 foot turn lane on Central Pike, to where we can start hopefully bringing in some commercial development to hopefully generate revenues. And so I'm frustrated. My people are frustrated.
We totally understand,
Yeah.
Councilman Glover. I'll let Director of Finance, if she can provide some insight. But I'd like to add the process that we have now, as you indicated, that predates this process.
Yeah, but I have a letter signed. Thank you.
Director Lomax O'Neill.
I really think the proper kind of follow-up, after the Metro Council approves a capital spending plan and makes a commitment to do a particular project, that is assigned to a department. And a department is responsible for managing that engagement and making sure that there is follow-through. I think I hear you saying that that was supposed to be done by Public Works. I think the proper thing to do would be to follow up with the Public Works Director and to ask specifically about that project and to have a discussion about that letter and that commitment that you were saying. And if you'd like for me to convene that meeting, I'd be happy to convene that meeting for you so that we can have that conversation.
So, Director, I'm going to ask you a question. You've known me for quite a while, right? Do you not think I've already done all the things you just recommended to me?
I think the only thing that's different is that you've not asked me to participate in that conversation with you. And I'm willing to do that to try to get to the bottom of it for you.
Okay, well then,
that
what I will simply say, well, I don't know if it's fair or not, what I will tell you is this, that if we in fact will have that conversation and we can in fact make this happen 4 years later, then I'm more than happy to have one more meeting, try and make this happen. But frankly, I've spent a lot of time trying to do this with no results. And I've met with the state and I've met with Public Works, and it gets bounced back and forth and back and forth. I just would like to have equity across the city, of which we've not seen, and that's why I'm down here. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Councilman Glover. Councilwoman Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate all the hard work we did last year trying to figure out how to come up with that 1 to 161 ranking, I think. And
We were here for hours.
we were here for hours.
Yes.
But it felt productive, and it felt like we got to a good along-the-way place, but we didn't feel like we were finished. And I don't know if tonight's meeting is going to be our attempt to go the rest of the way, or to sort of kind of set the parameters to figure out how to go the rest of the way.
Yes, and I will ask if council members can hold off on talking about specific projects in their district, because then the goal of tonight is to continue to refine the process. This is our second year in doing it. This will be our second year in using the SharePoint drive. Last year, I tried to encourage each one of you to talk with one another as it relates to priorities in your respective districts. Remember, there was a long debate as to if we wanted each other scoring in other districts, sharing points. We didn't get there. If we were going to use the multiplier, those metrics from Walk Back Nashville, it was a whole gamut of things that we left unresolved last year, to where we just put the raw score in place so that we would have something to submit to the administration as it relates to a collective body as a whole, that this is what our priorities are.
Great. And that's my hope for what we can do in the next hour, maybe, or at least to begin that process. And to me, the things that we were beginning to do that I hope we will pick up with again, as you mentioned, are the walk back priority score, and the other strategic plans that also, provide an official and thoughtful ranking for projects, and then also to figure out how we can integrate department priorities with what we have. And in looking through the attachment from last year's CIB, it looks like the department priorities that I can see are either no priority or needed if funds are available. So that makes it pretty simple. I had assumed that it was slightly more nuanced than that the departments would have a ranking of their own.
And at your request, if we can have, so we can go ahead, that's a great segue, so we can get that clear understanding. I believe we have Metro Water here at your request. We asked them to be here so that they can basically articulate their prioritization in the whole CIB process. Because right now, we have the information, but it's fragmented.
Yeah, and then to come back to what those multipliers look like.
Yes.
That's my long-term goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Allen. Councilwoman Dow.
I just want to ask a quick question about the process that we're talking about. How does this play into, I know we had several projects in the CIB last year, and from my perspective, none of them have been done. So I wanted to know, when we look at the process of prioritizing this year, is there some kind of way we can identify what hasn't been done, what has been done? And when we allocate funding from one prior budget year, like we allocated funding last year, and I think Councilman Glover alluded to this, we allocated funding for a particular project one year in the budget, and we funded it through the spending plan. And if it's not done, does that carry over to the next one just because they didn't get to it? I would just like some clarity on that end with regard to us coming up with another list of priorities in our district, because there were some projects, and I would like to be included in that meeting with Councilman Glover and Talia. There were some projects that...
Director Lomax O'Neill, Councilwoman Dow.
What did I call her? Councilwoman?
Go ahead, though.
I'm so sorry. You don't want to be there. But I would like to be included in that meeting, Director, because I want to make sure that when we go through the CIB process this year, that those projects did not fall out, and if they're going to be done, because... what the status of them is. So I think a good place for us to start with regard to coming up with the CIB process is to understand what projects we've put in the pipeline that has not been done that was supposedly funded in the capital spending plan in the prior budgets. And one is the little sidewalk project from Curtis Hollow to Rural Hill Road that was funded, that they've never completed, and it's been stopped. And so I think if we could get an understanding on that, that would help us prioritize what needs to be done going forward. Because I would hate to put new things on there when the other things have fallen off. So if you could, some kind of way, Chair, have them to look at the projects that we've put in the prior year and find out what has been completed.
Yeah, but I want to encourage you, don't, just because a project has been started and not completed, you still want to add your projects to the CIB because it's a long-term document. And I also want to remind committee members and Director Lomax O'Neill, you can add to this also. I want to remind council members also, we do have the quarterly capital status reporting report. So quarterly, you're able to see where projects are.
I think what will be helpful to all of us, especially as it relates to when things go into the spending plan, is to have some type of project timeline to know that when they're going to start on them, when they're going to finish them. The quarterly report, nothing has been done. To my knowledge, looking at the list from the prior budget year, I don't know what they've done. I don't see anything in that capital spending plan that we approve that has been done or worked on when I look across the county. So I want to know, like,
you would be referring to the prior year because we just approved
for the prior year.
Okay.
So I'm just saying that if we funded this and the money is available and it's there, then when we come to the next budget season, I shouldn't go back and put that same project on there because it's in there and it's funded. So when we go forward, I know we can put whatever we want to, but we need to have some kind of way of when we budget and we approve and we spend money funded, to know that that project is going to be done in some timeline. Because I think what's confusing is that we put things in the capital spending plan, we say it's funded, they're going to do it, it does not get done, we roll over to the next budget season, and we're asked to go in there and put new projects in there, yet the constituents nor we're not seeing any of those things done. So I would like to know, before we get started this year, is that we have some kind of timeline and know what we funded in the past year of those projects, what's been done, and where the money is. Because if we allocated $500,000 for a turn lane down on Central Pike and we put it in the capital spending plan and it was funded and done, then where's the money and when is that project going to be done? We shouldn't be talking about it in the next capital spending plan because that money has been allocated, earmarked, it's there, and they should be bidding it out and getting that work done. I think that's where it would help to have some clarity around there.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, Councilwoman Dow. You want an update on where we are as it relates to approved capital projects that's been in prior CSPs.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
I want the dollar amount that we've allocated, and I want it lined item out where you are and what's been spent.
We can do that.
Thank
and just
you.
for clarity from your statement too, Mr. Claxton, the new process that we have, it alleviates redundancy because I remember the prior CIBs had multiple duplication of projects and so forth. So the new process now is that if something has been funded from the CIB and a council member submit that request again, are you guys catching that so that it's not a redundant request in the CIB? You're on.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, our goal is to catch projects that are either duplicate or have been funded. Usually that's something that departments note in their comments back where a project is that's been funded or underway or being studied in some way. So our hope is to try to catch those and weed them out. From a CIB perspective, once a project is funded, it's primarily complete. So it should come out of the CIB as it's passed over to departments to implement.
Even if it's a phase project, Mr. Claxton?
If they need further funding, then it would stay in.
It would stay in, okay.
But whatever request that's been funded would come out. If there's a future phase, that could stay in.
Okay.
Just for clarification, you said once a project is funded, it's completed.
From the perspective of the capital improvements budget, because the CIB is organizing future requests. So if you have a project that's, you only need 1 year of funding and it's funded at its full level.
But what if it's not done? What happens?
It's
like, what if they use the money for something else and it wasn't funded? We put it in there and we put in, 30 foot of sidewalk. It costs $200,000. We put it in the capital spending plan. It was accepted, and that's what we're supposed to earmark that money to go toward. However, in the process of that budget year, maybe something happened, and they took that $200,000 and used it on another project. How do we keep up when things like that happen? Because what we're seeing across the county, and I hear from other council members as well, is that we have put projects in the capital spending plan, the budget. It went to the spending plan. It made it. We approved it in our budget for the year for the money to be set aside for them to get to work on it. and do it. But when we go out in our district, it's not done. For example, the project in my district, they started, then all of a sudden they packed up. And when I inquired about it, they said, well, we couldn't get easements to finish the sidewalk, so they just left it there. So what happened to the rest of the money? That's the question I have, because I don't want to go back and resubmit it again. And you already have money. You already have the $150,000 left supposedly in your budget over at Public Works. I just think we need to bring Public Works in and get a better accounting of these projects and what their process is and how they're bidded out and the time period and the frame and all of that. And that will help us, because I did see our CIB and CA a ton of same requests over and over again. And I think we're doing that in the process is because we're putting the money in there for them to do the projects. They're just not getting them done.
And as from the planning perspective, all we deal with is the CIB. So
Yeah, Mr. Claxton, you can't answer that question. Councilwoman Dow, we have departments here. I'm going to move us along a little bit. We have the departments here that can speak to that. So I'll ask, we'll start with Metro Water. If you can come up and advise us as it relates to capital improvement prioritizations, if a project is bumped for another emergency that the department may feel more befitting than a project that's already been approved for spending. How does that work, as what Councilwoman Dow just asked?
Metro Water, Jim Snyder, Metro Water. So what we'll do is when we receive the council requests from the planning department, we will take those requests and cross-check them to our 5-year plan, 10-year plan, whether it be stormwater, water, or sewer. And so there are, on the forms, there are fiscal years where you can put in the funding. And so we look at that, look at this sheet, cross-check and see how it looks in our plan, and align those monies for the correct fiscal year. For example, for fiscal year 20, you may put in the design money, and then in the fiscal year 21, you put in the construction money. So the idea there is that we take that information, cross-check it once again with our 5-year, 10-year plans. And if let's just say that it's not in our 5 to 10-year plan, then there's a column in there for beyond, and so we will identify it as being beyond. And there is actually one in this request that we looked at, and simply the benefit from the cost didn't match up, and we make that kind of comment as well. So more times than not, we're able to align that with our 5 and 10-year plan. So that's worked out well the last 2 years. So this is obviously the starting point, and so once a project is underway, you get actual bids in and so forth. It might require some type of phasing, but we keep that running in the fiscal year from the previous year. So that never falls off. That never falls out of our sight, because typically they're in our 5 to 10-year plan.
Is there any type of communication to council members as it relates to those capital requests, where they are in the actual process, without a council member having to go and review the quarterly capital spending report?
Yes, ma'am. In fact, on the water side, I know you all probably get tired of receiving those from us around the first of the year. Or maybe February, we'll give you a department-wide accounting, project accounting, if you will, of what we did the past year, both water, sewer, and stormwater, and what we intend to do the next 5 years. So we do that. In addition to that, I know that you receive stormwater reports every week, what work's going on, and then by code, Mr. Palco and his group submit to you the stormwater project update around October the 15th. So we feel like on a week-by-week basis, that required annual report for stormwater, and then our overall department-wide report that comes to you around in February or so. So it gives you a chance to know where we're at. In addition to that, obviously, when there is going to be a project, I know we hold community meetings and so forth, and let you know, well, it looks like we're going to phase this project one way or the other. So from our perspective, we think there's a lot of communication back to the council related to CIB projects.
Looks like we have some more discussion. Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Chairman. Very quickly, a couple of separate questions. One, and I want to thank Greg Claxton and planning for working so hard on this. Just a clarification, what external information is used by planning for prioritization? So for example, the 50 most dangerous intersections, if it's in a council request, how do you take into effect, what external information do you use, and how does that perhaps upgrade a priority?
You're on.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman. We use a mix of factors. We've got probably on the order of 30 different factors that we look at. Not all of those rely on outside information. Generally, what where we can find some external data to bring in, we do. The key ones that we focus on is what we call a reducing disparities index of kind of disadvantaged communities throughout the county. We look at sort of proportion of projects that are in kind of a heightened stormwater area of concern. Building age and condition where we have, or building condition, I apologize, where we have that. That's primarily schools and libraries and fire. I believe we also look at not the 50 most dangerous intersections, but whether there have been crash incidents at the area under consideration. And then also things like the existing conditions of a roadway compared to what's recommended by the Major and Collector Street Plan. The sidewalk prioritization index provided by Walk and Bike Master Plan.
But, well, by the way, this is a terrific list, and if you didn't mind, in your spare time, just writing those out,
Sure.
because I think all of us would benefit from sourcing back to that original material and kind of seeing where we are. But there's no countywide traffic plan, for example, that exists.
Correct, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Well, thank you again for letting us go back to the sources and see where. All right. And then the second question, Madam Chairman, if you didn't mind, really for finance, this whole meeting is so much about the prioritization of the CIB process. What is the prioritization of the CSP backlog that you might engage in, since we have several years of backlog CSP projects that are slowly working their way out? Is there a prioritization process?
The mayor uses the CIB as the starting point to determine what will be in a capital spending plan. And I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. Greg would probably have them right over there in front of him. There are lots of needs.
There are, but as Greg was saying, his life stops when it is funded, when it gets to the CSP, and to some degree, your life starts.
Exactly. And the mayor takes into consideration everything that's submitted for that fiscal year and prioritizes according to what he or she believes to be the priorities in this community.
So if you're a business, you might age receivables, so to speak. What is the oldest outstanding CSP project? Been funded? Greg's life stops. At that point, it's over in finance. What is the longest age?
In terms of the capital spending plan aging, I would say the oldest would be when the Dean administration came in and they deauthorized everything. And then they reestablished and reauthorized some projects and bought them back. So they would be in the late, 2008, 2009 kind of period when they reauthorized positions.
And some of those are still on the list.
Yes.
Some from 08 and 09.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's always helpful to understand how long things can stay on the CSP without being performed. Thank you very much.
Chair, if I may. We do have a traffic plan. I mean, I don't know if it's the best traffic plan, but we do. We define arteries, we define main corridors. And it has an implication and impact in the type of developments we can have, where we can have a daycare, for example, has to be in relation to where these roads are. So maybe he needs to be asked the question again in a different way, but we do have a blueprint for traffic movement around the city.
Mr. Claxton.
Sure, and I apologize, that's correct. The Major and Collector Street Plan does lay out kind of overall what the recommended street profiles are throughout the county. It doesn't recommend individual capital projects.
Well, thank you, Chairman, for clarifying this. The street collector program is really the the current and future built environment. It is not analyzing load.
I believe they take load into account when they make their recommendations, but it's looking much further ahead than sort of immediate traffic problems right now.
Okay, so projected load possibly is in that street plan. Thank you,
so.
Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Cooper. Councilman Hager.
Sorry I got here late. One thing I wanted to ask, I guess it'd go to finance. There's been a lot of things that have been approved in the capital improvement budget that haven't been done. What happens to that money when it's over a year old? Does it go back in the general fund, or does the project nixed, or what happens to it?
You meant the capital spending plan.
Correct.
Councilman Hager. Director Lomax O'Neill.
Most capital projects don't, it takes longer than a year to do a capital project in most instances. So the money would remain available until the project is completed. And let's suppose there is an amount that's budgeted for $1 million and it only costs $800,000 to do it. Typically, that $200,000 would just be deauthorized. If you recall, when we brought forward the bond authorization recently, we did a deauthorization of some owed balances. So the proper way to remove that availability would be a deauthorization.
Okay, and I'm going to be specific about this. The Gulch Bridge, the pedestrian bridge, you know, that was supposed to be in the CI, what was that, 2 years ago? And it hadn't been done yet. That was like $20 million. What's happened to it?
That project is active. I don't know if anyone from Public Works is back there in the back, but that's an active project.
Director Lomax O'Neill, Public Works, along with Metro Stormwater, or Metro Water, were invited to be here because that's where the bulk of the questions were coming from as it related to the CIB process. I don't see any. Do we have anyone here from Public Works?
No.
Okay.
All right.
But Councilman, I can tell you that that is an active project that is ongoing.
Okay.
It's really complicated because of lots of different issues that have happened over the past couple of years. I know they spent some time just trying to work on, I think it's, what do they call it, air rights or whatever, because they were trying to see exactly what the access would be around the railroads and things like that, but that is still an active project.
Well, what happens if it eventually does not become an active project? Does that money go back into
That money, we would probably bring that back before this body to do a deauthorization of the funding.
Okay. Have we done that before?
Yes, we've done deauthorizations
All right.
before.
I just want to make sure. Now, one other question with planning, I need to ask specifically. I've had 4 or 5 years, I've had in the CIB for that new community center in Old Hickory, and it seems like every time I just don't get funded and I have to relook at it. And this last time, it was high on the priority list, I think 6th or 7th, and it got bypassed. Why does that occur? If it's a priority up there and I get bypassed and somebody below me gets their funding and I don't, tell me why.
We compile all the recommendations from council, from departments, and from the Planning Commission and provide them in the CIB to the administration and to council for consideration for funding. We don't weigh in on funding decisions.
Okay. So what I'm getting at, are we ever going to have any control over funding at all as a council body, or do we just let somebody else do it?
Absolutely. There was a motion to defer the capital spending plan, which was defeated because council members had expressed that they wanted more discussion. We were receiving information within an hour of us voting on the capital spending plan, and as a body, we voted down that deferral. So as it relates to control or as it relates to the capital spending plan. It's us as a body. So to answer your question, yes.
Well, but we haven't done it. Have we ever done it? I don't think we have.
Mr. Jameson, you would have more institutional knowledge than myself. Have we ever deferred a capital spending plan?
We have, I have a list that I will send to Councilman Hager and anyone who's interested in going back to 1999, the introduction date, any deferrals, and the eventual passage dates of the capital spending plans, and I will send that to you as soon as we're...
Okay, then my question is, if we defer it and we add stuff into a capital spending plan or capital improvement budget, whatever, is that done? Is it honored or not?
That has happened before. You change the bonding amount, obviously, but that has happened before, and that would eventually boil down to your ability to convince your colleagues to add the amendment that you're requesting.
Thank you.
And Councilman Hager, I want to add that this process, again, encourage colleagues, it requires you to talk to one another. It requires you, long before we are voting on the capital spending plan, for you to express your priorities, your concerns with your fellow colleagues. Last year, during the same process, we were here for hours. And one of the questions were, if I'm in District 28, can I score on projects in Councilman Glover's project? And we agree, yes, you can. If you chose, if you wanted to give up some of your points to help your fellow colleague out, you can definitely do that. If a particular area wanted to, for lack of better words, if they wanted to block score, to score as a block, you can definitely do that. And that did happen this last cycle. Several council members from their respective area, they got together and they scored projects, what they felt would be most beneficial to not just one district, but several districts for their area.
I understand that, and mine scored very high, and I understand that. And I voted to defer it to add mine in there.
I wasn't picking on you. I was just stating what had transpired.
It's a very frustrated process because every year I have to go back and see what I put in the CIB to see if it got funded. Nothing gets funded, so here I am back again, the same thing, same old song and dance, you know?
Thank you, Councilman Hager.
May I?
Chairman Bettany.
Yeah, and in follow-up with what the chair was saying and what Mike Jamison was saying before, like, Councilman Glover, you have an item in your district that you're concerned. Councilman Hager, you're concerned about this item in your district. We all have issues. As the spending plan comes up, we can make amendments, we can adjust it if we use the blueprint of the capital improvement budget as a way to make our case. So having a good conversation during the capital improvement budget may help us tame this problem we face every year, which is like we are 35, 40 people trying to agree on something. Maybe the CIB is the blueprint to make that happen. I'm not saying that we'll be able to do it, but failure is not an option, right? You need that turn lane in your district. You need that community center in your district. So maybe this is a way to make that happen. And so I second what the chair is saying, that we should really try to work with each other, caucus, find ways to make it work.
And just to go back to what Mr. Jameson expressed earlier, in the past, we were not aware of what we were requesting from each other's district, not until after the fact, not unless you took it upon yourself and read the entire big CIB booklet before it became more refined from what it is now. But before we started streamlining the process, there was a lot of redundancy in the CIB. Projects were in there multiple times. And so forth. So again, this is our second year. We are refining it, and all comments have been greatly appreciated. Councilwoman Allen, are you at Sledge?
Yes, my computer's doing strange things. My understanding is that when we get the capital spending plan, it is a big chunk of money, something between $200 million and $400 million, and buckets like sidewalks. And it does not say which specific sidewalks are going to get built or which community centers. It just says parks. And so what I envision in this process leading to is that document is issued by the mayor's office with some amounts, and then that is simply put against the CIB, and it says, okay, I've got $30 million for sidewalks, how deep down these priorities, 1, 2, 3, or it's going to be 1, 10, and 22 because there are other things that aren't sidewalks.
Yeah, to
Do I
itemize it
go
out.
before I run out of that $30 million? And so if you're number 6 and you're number 1, and there's money in there for your items, then your stuff gets built, and that's the end of the conversation. And I think where it gets complicated is right now, the department's priorities and our priorities are not necessarily the same list.
It's
And
a gap.
And so how do we put those two things together so that there's one list to choose from and there's a ranking for each of those buckets, and the money in those buckets goes as deep as it goes, down 1, 2, 3, 4 for each of those buckets. And it's very transparent, and we've all, made conscious decisions through this process of I'm gonna put all my money on this one sidewalk because I need it more than anything, and then we just let the money, then we let the rankings drive what actually gets done. And so I think that's where the conversation with the departments is important, because they need to be comfortable with that process as well. And I think right now there's a disconnect that I'm hoping we can solve today.
Yeah, in the critical department, Public Works, they're not here tonight for whatever reason, but I will be following up to find out why they are not here in attendance, because this is a very important meeting. Primarily because last year we had our prioritization request due January 22nd, and then we met again January 25th. I don't know if y'all recall that, but that was our timeline last year. That's why we're kind of here early before the holiday, trying to get the process down packed. So when you go into your part of scoring, we're all on the same accord. So Mr. Claxton, to Council Lady Allen's question, I know I had asked about if we could add in the aging of buildings to help with prioritization, but with the departments, they only have 2 options when they're scoring on their priority. I forget what those two are. Maybe we need to. They don't have a critical priority. I think. Can you tell me? I forget what those priorities are. You're on
Okay.
for what the departments are. Maybe if we can start with how we define what the priority is and what that means, then we can begin to bridge our scoring from our side.
Sure. So for department projects, departments typically use one of 2 ways to identify their priority. For departments with a small number of projects, they may simply assign a ranked number similar to council's priorities, 1 through 8 or 1 through 12 or whatever. For departments with a larger number of projects, we provide for them a similar set of tiers where they rank as 1001 projects that have already been funded that for some reason need to reappear in the CIB. 1002 is their highest level of priority, all the way down to 1005, which is something that they recommend being aware of as a long-term need. How they identify their priorities within that is fairly open. We defer to them on how they identify their own priorities and the level of detail that they go into in the CIB. So for example, the sidewalk program that shows up in the CIB is intended as carrying out the annual work program that Public Works develops kind of over time based on walk and bike. So it's got kind of, and I believe those, they communicate with council members as they identify those. So it's got sort of a set of programmed sidewalk segments built into that overall bucket, that overall program.
May I ask one more question?
You're
And so
sorry.
I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. So is there a list of projects that we put our rankings on, 161 of them apparently. Is there a whole nother list that is not in our list of 161? And how do we get them into that same, do we want to get them into that same list, I guess is the first question. I think we do. And if so, how do we do that so that there's some logical way to say we're going to use some of these council ones and then we'll go over and pick up a department one? Or do we just divide the sidewalk bucket in half and council gets half of it and Public Works gets half of it? That's what I'm trying to think my way through.
Sure, and I don't believe that we have a recommendation in terms of the, kind of how you divide the funding up. in terms of, is there a list that the departments maintain? A lot of that depends on the department and the specifics of the program. So Public Works, like I said, has put a lot of effort into starting to lay out what their sidewalk program is. Their paving program, as I understand it, is sort of similar, but it's a little bit more responsive year to year as to kind of what the changes in the pavement condition are. So that one's a little bit tougher. They can sort of work through what they're doing in a year, but if there's a particular bad, flooding event in one part of town, that changes their prioritization as they go. Libraries, parks, schools, for example, they tend to lay out project by project and then reserve some sort of district-wide or system-wide funding as well. So it varies a little bit. It's tough to integrate it all together.
Councilwoman Johnson. One moment, I got too many. Let's see. There you go.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to thank planning staff, planning department, planning director, because especially Mr. Clarkston, you have been working past, 3 years. And before you take on this one, this capital improvement budget was indeed, big one wish list. But now we do know try to prioritize, and we do know how much, our fundability and versus still long wish list. And that's a, great task. And as for the last year, you are like a little cute illustration of department priority, that when it's colored, it is a priority for that particular department, such as parks or, water department. So those little color coordination was very, very helpful personally to me to prioritize not only my district, but, other district project. But to me, the biggest problem is not the CIB. I think we are improving CIB process and how to adopt CIB. The problem is when it's funded going into CSP, it's going to the big black hole. And when, comes back to us as 250 million as a big bucket, it does not attach to CIB number. That's why we don't know what was funded, what kind of priority we will be funding, and so forth. So it's on us. So next budget cycle, when mayor bring up with a capital spending plan, it's on us to request administration, yes, in this sidewalk, please provide us addendum for what kind of CIB is attached to this portion of sidewalks. And this library, please identify which CIB number. If we can do that and then compare with our adopted CIB, then we will know what CSP, literally what was funded. So I think we just need to change our approach from CIB to what will be funded. So that's how we need to kind of prioritize. One more thing, on the prioritization, Chair has suggested, we can kind of talk to other district council members to, what will be our collective priority. But however, I'm a little questioned because we are under the Sunshine Law, so we cannot, talk among each other to, which project to, promote and so forth. So how can we make that process under the Sunshine Law with talking to other council member?
Attorney Jameson, can you provide us some legal advice?
You are limited by the Open Meetings Act to conversing with your council members at advertised meetings. That would be council meetings as well as any other advertised meetings. What we saw last year and that the council office will always do is to the extent you have correspondence to particular council members or all council members with respect to a project, we forward that on your behalf. That complies with the act and gets your message across to the other council members you want to address.
May I?
Chairman Bettany.
I want to suggest something that we did under the initiative of Councilman Glover the first year we got elected. He called a meeting in his office. It was properly advertised, and it was an effort to have a conversation about the budget. And it was a very good conversation. So my suggestion is that perhaps people from different regions of the city could call meetings and caucus about what happens in their part of the city, do a properly advertised meeting and discuss how to share efforts in prioritized items in their respective regions. I could envision a situation where we could do that on the southeast, for example, or on other parts of the city. So I'm thinking out loud right here, but like I said, I appreciate Councilmember Glover's leadership on that because it was an effort to try to find a better way to have a conversation about our priorities in a new way, an out-of-the-box thing. You always need to advertise it. That's key. You don't want to have a secret meeting, but you know that already. We all know that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairman Bettany. And Public Works, Ms. Wallstrom, if you can come down. You're on now.
Okay, thank you, Council Lady Vercher.
And Council Lady Allen, I'll go back to you. I have your question here as it was relating to Public Works and sidewalks. And there's other council members in the queue, too. I'll come back to you after Council Lady Allen.
You want me to read it? So my question, Ms. Wallstrom, as we kind of discussed, is that the council has worked hard with the help of planning to come up with a ranking process for the projects that are listed as council-specific. When the CSP is published, it gives X number of dollars for sidewalks or different buckets that often are largely public works types of items. And our question is, how can we integrate the projects that you have on your list that aren't necessarily district specific so that they won't be in the 161 projects that council members have prioritized, but they still need to be done? Is there a way to either identify the council districts that they may be in? Or, I mean, I know you need to have some flexibility to adjust to things that happen during the year, but we're working to create a system that is transparent so that once a certain numbers of dollars are allocated, we'll know which projects are going to be done because as a group we've decided which ones were the highest priority. And we don't want to leave y'all out of the process, but I can't figure out how to integrate those two different categories of projects. So I would welcome your suggestions there.
And neither do we want to leave you out of the project as council members. Whenever we went through this last year, we took a look at what was in the sidewalk and bikeway plan that had been laid out that the council had an opportunity to look at and that everybody went through at the same time. And we also look at what you have on your list. And then this last year, we sat down council member by council member, invited you to come in and talk with us about what your priorities were for the sidewalk and bikeway plan. And then that gives us an idea of what the priority was laid out in the plan. If there's been a change and some other priority that y'all see as more important at this stage in your district, and then that allows us to work off of both the plan and what your concerns are at the same time. And it's my understanding that the same thing will be followed this next year.
Did you have any more?
No, I'll just say, when we talk about our ranking system, I just want to make sure that we're figuring out how to include that. And I know we talked about just sort of having a multiplier from the strategic sidewalk or whatever the new name is, the walk and bike plan, that says the higher up it is in the walk and bike plan, we get a higher multiplier for our number or something. And that might be one way to accomplish it so that there's one list that we're working from. And then, but there are other things like paving and things like that Public Works also does. And so that's, again, my question is, do we divide the paving schedule into some of it goes to council and some of it goes to Public Works and y'all get whatever you want, or do we come up with a way that y'all get into the same list? And that's all I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, Ms. Wallstrom, I think that the gap is that when we are scoring and identifying what our priorities are for our respective districts, we don't have the information to know what's departmental priorities. So there's that gap there. And then at the end of the process, the CSP is filed. We vote on it. 30 million for sidewalks. We don't know what priority sidewalks is included in that 30 million. So I think part of it in that 30 million, we're wanting to see it itemized out line by item in the CSP. Before you arrive to, and I'm just trying to get all my questions that I wrote down from council members. Like one example would be what was approved in a prior capital spending plan was the pedestrian bridge. I believe it was 18 or 20 million. The status of that, where we are as it relates to public works, the capital spending projects, and if projects have been started, the remaining funds for those particular allocations. I know we have at our disposal the quarterly capital status reporting report, but if we can get that while we're in this process, and also, and I don't know if you guys have it yet because I know you're having your mid-year discussions with the Department of Finance and the Mayor's office, where you are as it relates to departmental priorities, countywide and district specific.
Okay, that's a lot to take in, and I didn't take notes.
That's what happens when you don't get here on time.
Well, sometimes there are extenuating circumstances. That's all
I'm just teasing you.
So, what you're asking for is a complete list of everything that we are planning on paving for the next year, and every sidewalk that we're planning on building for the next year, and every bikeway we're planning on doing. Is that what you're asking for? And then that's what you will use to vote on whenever you're voting on the capital spending plan?
We want to see it because it's gonna help us. We're trying to bridge the gap. One of the concerns, and I'm going to use Councilman Glover as an example, his project wasn't in the last. It's been many moons ago because it was under the prior 5 years ago. He has a project where Public Works committed to funding, and the project hasn't moved. He's one of one council members. I believe Councilwoman Dow expressed the same concern as it related to a project had been funded. They just don't know where it is, the status in the pipeline, but they've seen other projects that has come after the approvals for those projects happen.
Well, we welcome anyone that has a concern to give us a call, to come over, sit down and talk with us, and we will go over all the projects and where the funding is. I don't think that we have a problem showing y'all a list as long as that list is not what's specifically voted on whenever you pass the capital spending plan, and it allows us the opportunity to talk to you district by district and for emergencies that arise or for other things that happen, so that list is not the only thing that we can spend money on. Does that?
It does,
Okay.
but the body is requesting the list because
Okay.
I think we're going to get to a point where they may want to
Okay.
restrict you more, and that's what we're having the process for. Chairman Bettany.
Didn't you guys create a website that showcased all the projects and their funding throughout the city? Didn't they do that for Public Works?
I didn't understand your question.
I believe Public Works has a website now that shows all the projects that they are building throughout the city. And,
Yes, it does.
And the funding for them.
Yes, it does.
Does it include from plans from 5 years ago? I wasn't able to see that.
We have been able to download about 3 years' worth of
That's what I
information
thought.
in there.
Yeah, it's not.
So
yeah.
that's as far back as we have gone.
All right.
And then one last question, Ms. Wallstrom. So can you talk to us about how Public Works prioritize projects that ends up being in the capital spending plan?
We talked about the sidewalks and the bikeways. For the paving plan, we have a special truck and a special company that goes out every year in the spring. And they look at half of the county one year and then the other half of the county the next year. They actually have recordings. They grade the roads. They tell us what's wrong with them, if it's pavement markings, if it's raveling, if it's shoulders, if it's conduit, whatever it is, guardrails, they list everything. And so they then give us a score of which roads are the poorest in the county and which roads are the best. And so we take that list of the poorest roads in the county and we start working on that first.
Okay, that's that OCI score.
Yes, it
so
is.
So what about, back to Council Lady Allen's question, what's the scoring for sidewalks? That's one question. And then going back to Councilman Glover's, what's the scoring for, that's Central Pike? Councilman Glover, like what's the scoring Public Works use to prioritize projects like those?
The main thing that we look at is the sidewalk and bikeway.
You use that
study
indicator?
That was done. We
Okay.
do use those indicators. Then we also look at, in Councilman Glover's district, there was a company that was moving into a piece of land there, and they were willing to work with us to share some of that cost, and they needed some things done to the road, and we had planned to do things with the sidewalk. That company has since backed out. That building hasn't come in. They're still working on things, and that is part of what has delayed his project.
Okay. Councilwoman Hurt.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Mr. Chair.
Fabian.
You know, this is a little frustrating to me because it seems like all of it is just too political. We have aging projects that are prioritized by the mayor, and Public Works answered some of the questions that I had in terms of city audits. And if they have a city audit to determine what is needed and how in each one of those cases. But for, as you said, with Councilman Glover, Councilman Hager, and the action that District 1 Councilman took on Tuesday night, I mean, he was ridiculed for doing that, but I recall when I was over that district a couple of years ago that there were sidewalks in the capital improvement budget that is no longer there. And I don't understand how we would put money, millions of dollars, for a pedestrian bridge in the Gulch over the safety of school kids in the sidewalks. I don't understand how we prioritize walking, bikes, you know, all of that over sidewalks at schools where we have children. So the action that the councilman took was one of desperation. So I can recall some years ago in North Nashville, roots from trees were growing so drastically that it busted up the sidewalks. I mean, you could literally see the sidewalks like this and the tree roots that's coming up. Now, how do you allow something like that to happen if there are audits going on? I think the enforceability and the accountability in just about everything that we have in Metro Department is lacking. And that's what we've got to do. I don't know if we really have any authority to make any of this happen. We sit here meeting after meeting and talking about this, but those projects that the political will wants done is what gets done. And I think that we've got to stop complying with that and make some things happen that really needs to be done for the betterment of the constituencies.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hurt. So, Ms. Wallstrom, can you speak to what Councilwoman Hurt was, her example as it relate to sidewalk safety, if sidewalks are damaged or repaired, the prioritization of that in the CSP? Like, I would presume that would be higher than building a newer sidewalk, but I'll let you speak to that.
Correct. Part of the money that we receive from the council every year goes towards sidewalk repair and maintenance. And we do have inspectors that roll through the county looking at the roadways and the sidewalks. And if I urge the council members, if they have a specific sidewalk that they have seen or that they have received a request or a complaint from, to please notify us and let us know so that we can send somebody out there to get that repaired.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Weiner. Were you done, Councilwoman Hurd?
No.
Let me come back to you. I'm gonna clear the queue, go to Councilwoman Weiner, and I'll come back to you. Is we need to narrow down our process. Councilwoman Weiner.
Thank you. And I'm going to actually tag on some things that Sharon said. Council Lady Hurd is right. I think if I'm going to equate this to something that you might think is trite, but think about Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. She had those red shoes that could have gotten her home at any time. Well, the charter is our red shoes. And if you look at section 6.13 that speaks to the capital improvements budget, that's our process. Nowhere is it written anything about a capital spending plan. That is simply a memo that is attached to any of our bond resolutions. It stipulates in 6.13 that the council should have the power to accept with or without amendment or reject the proposed program and proposed means of financing. The council shall not authorize an expenditure, blah, blah, blah. We all know that we have to have it in the CIB. What it also says is we can amend, we can reject, we can add, we can subtract to anything that we present and that we vote on. So it's not up to the departments to tell us what to do. We have the stipulated authority. I'm holding my phone up. We have the stipulated authority in the charter to do what we need to do. Guys, we've already got this authority. We don't have to recreate the wheel. We just need to make a decision about what our priorities are, and we need to find a way to communicate that with our department heads, with the administration, and most importantly, with each other. We don't need to be at each other's throats about what happens in each district. We have got to work together, and this is a perfect opportunity to do that, and I'd like to see us change our mindset. I think what Council Lady Bircher said in the meeting Tuesday night was dead on perfect, and we have got to work as a team because the city depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Councilwoman Weiner. And that's been the sentiment of the process since last year. Well, we encouraged each and every one of you to talk to one another and communicate with one another. And that's how the process works. Councilwoman Hurt, you wanted to be recognized again? Okay, give me 1 second. And then I'm going to move us along because we need to finalize our process.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just
Ms. Wallstrom, we're done.
Okay, just a couple of things I want to say, and I thank Councilwoman Weiner.
Do you still want Ms. Wallstrom for Public Works?
Oh, no, I'm just going to make a statement,
Okay.
just make a statement about us working together. There has to be some balance and equity in what it is that we do. And it just seems to me that the one who fight the hardest or articulates the best are the ones who get the most. And that needs to change. We need to consider, I don't know if we need to do north and then south or east and then west or what. I don't know what the answer is. I know there's not a panacea because things happen, like with the floods, like with, catastrophic events that take place. But I do think that we need to keep all of this in mind as we move forward, and I thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Hurt. And just want to remind committee members and the viewing audience, for fiscal year 20, we have over 250 projects. Councilman Hager.
Just real quick, I want to emphasize what Councilmember Berkeley Allen said. I had a project last year to put lights on the bridge between Old Hickory and Madison. That's one of the oldest truss bridges in Tennessee. And when it got in there, I'm not going to say who, but somebody in finance, other than Talia, said that the money was there, but it was grouped together in the one big pile with Public Works, is what happened. Then when I went to Public Works, they said, no, we didn't get that money for the lights on the bridge. And I went back to Talia and she said, yeah, it's not in there. So that's what I emphasize, like Council Member Berkeley Allen said, we need to know exactly specific things that are approved, because that's another project. It's not a major project that I've had in there for probably 3 or 4 years as well. So it's just repetitious for me, but they said it was approved, and I found out it wasn't because it's not specifically addressed. So a lot of times they lump it in the capital spending plan, they'll lump it all together and don't break it down as to the specific project.
Ms. Wallstrom, I'm going to bring you back up just real briefly. And just so that you know, Public Works, the questions for the CIB process, y'all were the number one concern from council members. So with Councilman Hager's question, can you just provide us some information as to why a council member would be advised that the funding was there, and when he confirms and verifies with the department the funding is no longer there? Because when we pass a capital spending plan, the council member would have been under the assumption that his project would have been funded in that respective CSP.
Okay.
So how does it go from being funded to not being funded?
And that's been a while ago, and I can't remember all the details or who you spoke to at the time specifically, but I know that there are a lot of things and a lot of requests that we have from the different council members that we try to put in, and our list is usually, our ask for capital money is usually 3 times what we end up getting. And so whenever that pulls through, a lot of the things that we did have on our list that we put in end up not being funded based on what the council passes for the funding amount. So I think that that's what happened in your case, Councilmember Hager, but we're more than happy to supply whatever information you want.
Councilman Hager.
Well, and that may have happened. I don't know how it happened, but at the same time, I didn't know till later on that, hey, it was not funded when I went back to Talia. And if I'd have had a list of what projects Public Works had or had the money for, or didn't have the money for,
Okay.
I could have filed an amendment to try to get that money.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman Hager. That's why that list would be so important to us, Ms. Wallstrom. Councilman Glover, your question for Public Works? Wait a minute. Your question for Public Works?
It's not only a question,
Okay.
there's a couple of comments because I pressed my button when I heard some things. So here's the thing. Public Works knows we're working between the state and Public Works trying to get the Central Pike, keep bouncing back and forth. I've done countless meetings on this. So I'm going to go ahead and refer, and I want to make sure I'm talking to you, Chair, because, I want to make sure we're following the rules here. But I'm going to address Councilman Hager because I think what he said the other night was the wall of shame. If we don't do something the way we're supposed to do it, we get buried. They wait us out, is what happens. I am this far down the road with less than a year left in the term, and something that was done under the Dean administration still has not begun. And to say that it's because a sidewalk, I ask us not to put in the 35 or 45 feet of whatever it was on the sidewalks on Andrew Jackson because it didn't make sense to me. Now, call me crazy. I kind of live in my district, so I kind of think I'm supposed to know what does make sense. And I said, hold that money for the Central Pike project as we continue moving forward. Every time I think we're getting close to it moving forward, it dies on the vine. Now, I will tell you, just like other council members here in this chamber, I don't have time to sit down and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or even 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, babysit a project that I think is supposed to be happening. So I feel the pain of the various council members in their districts where we supported other ones where millions and millions of dollars are spent, but we can't get $500,000 or we can't get this in our districts. And you know what? The last time I checked, the administration doesn't vote for me. My constituents vote for me. And so I'm going to fight on their behalf. And, if I sit down and say, all right, show me projects that were in the CIB or in the capital spending plan after my project was put into it almost 5 years ago now. How many of those have been started and done? I'll use the fairgrounds as an example. A lot of stuff already happened out there, and there still has not been the movement from what I was told. So, I mean, the frustration is, when we talk about the control of the CSP, I think Councilman Hager brings up a very valid point. We basically have no say-so in that because it is lumped into one large amount of money. And yeah, it's in the CIB, we're gonna do this project, dot. But if they wanna wait us out, they certainly can. Or if the administration wants to wait us out, they certainly can. And whether you like what I'm saying or you don't, that's the reality of what several of us feel on this floor. So we have got to find some way to actually get things done, because I'm frustrated when I do meetings and I lobby on behalf of my constituents and I think I've got money allocated for it because I've even got a signed letter from the previous administration that says this is what we're going to do, and I'm still sitting here and it's not done yet, but we pretend like we have a procedure. I'm confused because we don't have a procedure for any of us on the floor to actually deal with what should be happening in our district when we think it is happening. And so, you know, I'm going to echo what Councilman Hager said. I think that if we're going to walk through the CIB, that's all fine and dandy. Oh, we're going to put it out there. We're going to do it a little later, a little earlier, or whatever it is we're doing this Thursday before Christmas. But at the end of the day, if we don't understand what's in the capital spending plan and it does not identify the individual projects, we're hung out to dry. Now, again, I want to be very clear, and I'll close with this. If that upsets the administration or upsets some departments or whatever, so be it, because that is reality. Doesn't get much more real than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Glover. I think the start is that Public Works have committed to providing us their prioritization list, so we can start there. I'm optimistic that we've made some headway tonight. Councilwoman Helen.
Thank you for letting me speak again. Mr. Jameson, can you tell me legally, if we create a priority list, 1 through 161 or whatever, is there some way to either legislatively or by resolution make it happen that, you know, items 1 through 161, 1 through 50 happen until we've run through all the money in the capital spending plan? I mean, we've created a process, but I don't know that we've necessarily put the things in place to make it happen so that those priorities then get utilized to determine what gets spent. What would we require to do that?
Attorney Jameson?
There is. The spending plans, let me back up and just tell you how we got to this point. So there didn't used to be spending plans. That started, I think, around the late 90s under the Bredesen administration. And all you got before that was that any random period of the year you would get a bond resolution subject to the rule we still have. Whatever's on that bond resolution is already on the CIB menu, if you will, and that is still within the charter. But that bond resolution that now we all call the capital spending plan, which is never referenced in the charter, nevertheless is subject to the same amendments process that this council enjoys on every other resolution. So you could wholesale revise it, redo the order, and adopt that as what you're issuing. I'm not suggesting that that's good public policy. I imagine the Public Works Department has some projects that are not particularly sexy or are not particularly high profile, that run through multiple council districts that may not register on anybody's priority list but are extremely significant. I can imagine various sewer projects not registering on anyone's radar and yet is extremely significant. This body has made enormous progress in coordinating amongst itself what its priorities are. And I think the next phase is how to make that work in a responsible way with what department priorities are. And I will close with this. The charter section that deals with the capital improvements budget begins with the solicitation from departments of their needs. The council members are an afterthought, just approving what it is the departments want or don't want. The language is pretty clearly phrased that we're simply there to comment on what the departments want. That does not mean that you cannot suggest and should not suggest your individual council needs, but that's sort of how the charter has read for decades.
Thank you, that's helpful. I mean, what I'd love for us to do is to come up with something that is good public policy, that does allow for the flexibility the departments need to do what they need to do, but that also provides a transparent way for the work that we do to come up with our priorities to be meaningful and to be enacted as part of that. So if you can figure out what that is, I'd love to hear it.
We're supposed to figure it out tonight.
That's right, in the next 10 minutes, that'd be great.
Councilman Syracuse.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This has been very educational for sure to understand where we were, where we are, where we're going. The letter we get every year from the finance director states the capital spending plan. And it seems that it's been basically a template that's been used for now at this point many years. It's Exhibit A. And that's basically what we've been talking about tonight, is that we basically get buckets, but we don't get any specifics. So as part of solutioning here, perhaps whether it's a legislative solution that Councilwoman Allen would mention that perhaps we could do, or it's at least an agreement from the administration that the next time that they give us a letter with an Exhibit A of a capital spending plan, that it has a detailed list of projects. And if that doesn't happen, then we probably do need to legislate to make sure that that does happen.
Attorney Jameson.
On that point, and I would just remind the council of the language they have at their disposal now, and this is simply in the interpretation, but the rule that this body tweaked last year on what you should get, what that memo should state, it's 28. And what it requires is that you get the list that includes the total amount to be financed, the identification of each of the purposes of the amounts to be financed, and for each purpose, identify the portion of the total to be financed that's allocated to that specific portion, and for each of those purposes, with, quote, reasonable specificity, describing any subparts or categories within that purpose. So whether or not those memos meet that description, it's in the interpretation, but insisting upon greater specificity may be to your liking.
Mike?
Chairman Bettany.
Yeah. Mike, can we as a committee ask you to send a letter to the mayor's office asking us to provide feedback in getting a capital spending plan that has more detail on it, that we want to improve on the formatting of it? I don't know if that's the will of the committee, but I think we can do it at committee, right? We don't need a legislation to ask them to change the format.
No, we don't. We can do it as a committee. It doesn't have to be legislation.
So if the chair agrees, I think we can just tell them that we want them to give us feedback in a week, and maybe even the department heads, on what do they see from a policy perspective, the impact of asking them for more detail. I don't really see any problem, but I think it'll be the wish of the people here today that they want to have more information, and I agree with them.
Yeah. Attorney Jameson, you agree also?
Yes, sir. I will prepare the letter for your review, Councilman Bettany.
Councilwoman Johnson.
Thank you. I think it's exactly what I wanted to request, like Chairman Bettner requested, detailed information. So if I may, one step further, detailed information should include identification number, like, sidewalk. Each department has each unique ID number. MNPS has start with those numbers. So we will know exactly which project on the CIB will be funded as a CSP when administration proposed. Because all the funding has to be in the CIB, so it shouldn't be so hard for the administration to provide us which items we will be funding when the funding comes in. So that would be my request. So as for the prioritization, personally, last year's the recommendation by department by illustration was helpful, but in order for us to prioritize, and our prioritization is precisely in line with the department prioritization, if we could request from each department to like a priority list so we can weigh in better for the next budget cycle.
We can do that. I've expanded it beyond, for your request, Councilwoman Johnson, to all departments. Earlier, the request was just specifically for Public Works, so we expanded to all departments. Councilman Hagar.
I was just going to ask, in that letter, can you ask them to do the ones for this 2019 that we just passed on the capital spending?
Yes.
Because I had about 8 or 9 projects, and I don't think any of them got funded, and I just want to confirm that.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Allen.
Thank you. I want to pick up on this suggestion about trying to get more specificity in the capital spending plan. Would it be possible for us to amend the capital spending plan by adding an Exhibit B that simply shows the priorities that we've identified so that that becomes an official document that's not quite as unwieldy as the CIB, which has it in there, I think, but just, to say, Exhibit B is a suggested list, if that's what we have to call it, just to continue to allow flexibility, or a list that council members have demonstrated their priorities of, and to me, I don't think we've had the opportunity yet to figure out how we're going to do that. But, if we come up with a number ranking, as we did last year, can that be Exhibit B to the capital spending plan, not as a document that we're bound to, but one that at least is public and we'd be accountable to, so people could point to it and say, there's my project at the top of the list. Everyone can see it. Why didn't it get done? And maybe it will get done that way. Is that?
Attorney Jameson, Attorney Jameson.
So the problem you're going to, you can certainly attach as Exhibit B the prioritization list as a reference, as a touch.
As a reference.
But what you're trying to convey in Exhibit A is essentially
the buckets.
Well, the buckets, but what you're essentially trying to convey is for the benefit of the bond market. They've got to have some notion of the amounts, what this is at least generally for. And if we have 2 potentially competing exhibits, then you're...
And I would just say, and maybe we just describe Exhibit B very specifically as, here is a list that intersects with those buckets, not by the order. And we would go, not everything on this list will have funding because we'll run out before we get to the bottom of all the paving or the sidewalks or whatever. But this simply represents a ranking that demonstrates what the council has expressed as their priorities for the order in which they would like for these buckets to begin to be allocated.
I mean, if it's aspirational, then that shouldn't cause problems. But
aspirational.
For the purposes of our commercial paper program and eventually the point of this is to reach the bond market, then you're going to want to have one memo that identifies the actual funding.
So perhaps it could be a companion document or a companion legislation that just simply makes an aspirational statement. I'm just suggesting that if we do the work of making our priorities as we did last year, we don't seem to feel like we can tell where that list went or how it affected anything. Would having it be published as a part of a resolution or something that goes along with the budget process give it more transparency and perhaps more weight without putting us in awkward situations with the bond issues or whatever? And again, I would welcome suggestions on what that should look like. But I guess just a general question is, can we lay it out there as a public document?
Or Attorney Jameson, just can that, because I know we're utilizing the SharePoint, can it go on the website and an additional column be added to our final work product and how it actually aligns with the CSP so that it doesn't create any conflict in the bond market for our CSP?
Or requesting that the CSP memo identify where on the prioritization list this particular project falls.
I like that even better. Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to make this comment as brief as possible. I think some of the frustration I'm feeling, and I'll speak on my behalf only, but perhaps there may be others who feel the same way, but again, I'll speak on my behalf only. We have the Director of Planning that's here the Thursday before Christmas, been here from the very beginning, been listening, contently listening, and understanding what we're trying to say, and trying to understand and dealing with her department. I don't see anybody from the administration with budget and finance still here. They left, unless I'm incorrect. I don't believe I am. I think there's departments here that are here that have stuck with us throughout this. Several of the council members came down here again Thursday before Christmas to try and look and how do we move this thing forward. So to me, this kind of tells me what various departments and various areas in the city hold in relevance for this council. So with that, I would like to thank the planning department for being here from beginning to end. Thank you.
And Councilman, we also have Metro Water here in Public Works as well too. Okay. Okay, so we have no further discussion as it relates to the prioritization. Let's get into the process of it, okay? And we can wrap up in 15 minutes or so. So Chairman Bettany, you had written something earlier. Did you want to express that? And we still do have finance here, Councilman Glover.
I already brought that up before. I think trying to align the CIB with the CSP is a good policy move. Again, I would like to give the mayor's office and the departments an opportunity to provide feedback because my background is in architecture. So I look at the CIB as the blueprint of building a house, but then you hire a builder to build a house. So it's two different things. So now what we're doing here today is the CIB is the blueprint. Then comes the building of it, and that's the CSP. I mean, it's a different animal. So I just want to make sure that we don't compare apples to oranges or rocks, somebody said the other day. So I do want to give them the opportunity to give us feedback. And so that I know that Councilman Jamison will do a good job with that letter. But I think this was a great meeting. I'm very thankful for the feedback and that everybody spoke their mind. So I think it's been one of the best ones.
It's been a great meeting. It took us a year to get to, we want to include our council priorities with the CSP. So, I mean, we've been refining it. So, Chairman, it's been a great meeting. So last year, we kicked off, first time ever, utilizing the SharePoint for the budgetary process and using the electronic prioritization for the CIB process too, with the understanding that what we prioritize in the CIB, that's our way of saying that's a priority that we want to see funded. So if we can agree that we still want to utilize our spreadsheet with the scoring that we had last year. Last year in that presentation, planning gave us the oversight of those metrics that they use behind the scenes. I know Councilman Cooper asked for it again earlier, so I just want to make sure that planning doesn't forget to provide that to us as a body if you can. If we can continue using that same mechanism in scoring and reporting our priorities for our respective districts, we'll start there. Councilwoman Allen.
Thank you. I think as a chart maker, I'm probably more into this than anybody, and I apologize. I mean, last year we talked about using the Nashville Next 6 areas or whatever and sort of coming up with a way to
The multiplier.
to come up with the multiplier, and there were 6 different categories, and there are these cute little colors that tell what they are. And some of them, I mean, I think the reason we stopped last year, number one, was because y'all hadn't necessarily filled in those circles with that use in mind, so you wanted to make sure that they were appropriately done. And then some of them, it seems like, gave more weight to something than was appropriate. So, I mean, I guess my first question would be, those guiding principles, can you tell us what the 6 little circles stand for? And then have y'all had the opportunity to think about whether that's a good metric to use, or if some of these other items that you listed in response to Councilmember Cooper's question would be a more appropriate way to go about it. And then to circle back around to deal with Councilmember Hall's desire to make sure that neighborhoods, you know, with priority zones or recap are perhaps given a higher priority. Is that addressed in these 6 categories, or is there another way to capture that?
Mr. Claxton, can you hit the X on that? Thank you. No, on the dialog box.
I have been trying. It is not responsive.
In the upper right hand?
Yeah, it is not responsive.
Can you do, okay.
Move it on.
Yeah, that's just me. Okay, go ahead. Y'all will see my OCD, okay.
So I've put up on the slide the 7 guiding principles that we consider coming from Nashville Next. We score each project on each one of these, and the sub-criteria that we look at are within that. So they are Be Nashville, which is focused on culture and character as well as public safety, foster strong neighborhoods, expand accessibility for transportation, create economic prosperity, champion the environment, advance education, and ensure opportunities for all. And for that last one, ensure opportunities for all, we use a metric where we combine 8 different demographic criteria to try to identify key areas of need throughout the county. This is something that the regional body, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, started using. We've brought it over and tried to refine it a little bit to give a little bit more insight. But this is trying to convey kind of where multiple overlapping things combine and may make something a higher priority. Councilwoman, in terms of your request to sort of how we've looked at the scoring and how that connects to, how that could be used as a multiplier, we have tried to go back through. We've implemented things to make the scoring more standardized per the document that I'll be providing that sort of gives insight into how we do the scoring. However, we continue to be very, very reluctant about using it in an automatic way like a multiplier. There's 2 key flaws from that perspective that from our end, looking at the scoring and looking at projects, we can kind of see through that and understand kind of how the scoring works, but it makes it tough to use as a multiplier. Those 2 things are that right now, the scoring doesn't capture the scale of a project. So a small traffic circle on 2 local streets will get scored pretty similarly based on kind of its traffic impact as a new interchange on an interstate. We know when we look at those projects, those are operating at very different scales. The costs are substantially different. The number of people they serve are substantially different, but the scoring isn't set up to capture that scale. And that's something we've tried to work on and figure out other approaches to, and we haven't found something that can be done systematically. The other big flaw is that it is very much oriented to the goals of Nashville Next and to try to capture things that do a variety of impacts. And so things like parks and community centers and libraries and sidewalks score very well. But for example, one of the requests for this year is an upgrade for tornado sirens that has one very narrow thing that it does, and so it winds up scoring poorly. I would be loath to say that that is an unimportant project for that. It simply doesn't align with Nashville Next in the way that a park does. So we are very reluctant that the scoring be used in that kind of automated way. We would encourage that to factor into your own prioritizations as you apply your points or whatever the process is.
Okay, I appreciate you giving me an alternative recommendation. If other council members are comfortable with that, I'd welcome further discussion.
Councilwoman Allen, so, last year we spent an extensive amount of time, Chairman Bettany, on trying to figure out the multiplier. Did we, Mr. Claxton, would it help for us to take those guiding principles and for us to come up with what we want that multiplier to be, and we just use it ourselves when we are scoring our own projects, as opposed to trying to have you guys?
Potentially. I mean, it sort of depends on how you would carry that out.
Well, we will have to decide. And I don't know if we have the time, Councilwoman Allen. But it's open for more discussion.
And again, we may just want to focus on the reducing disparity one. If that's the one that's the most important, does that get a 1.2 multiplier or something like that? I mean, I think had our display not just gone away.
Does that weigh the most, Mr. Claxton, with as a top Nashville Next guiding principle?
It does not. Very early in the process of setting this up, we made the decision that each of the guiding principles should weigh equally. Which winds up with some odd effects. We haven't gone back to reconsider that. Our preference would be to sort of base that on community input, and we haven't kind of found a way to do that yet. But our decision was to weight those top-level things equally. Within that, there are differences, but ensure opportunity for all is weighted equally to expand accessibility is the same as Be Nashville.
And when I was commenting on Councilmember Hall's requests last Tuesday, that's what I had in mind, that we could either tweak those variables or even add a new variable. The problem is, it's not a problem, it's an opportunity for all as a body to come up with an agreement on what type of city do we want to have and how we define equity. I don't think that I think if we agree on some general overall guidelines, we can do it. I don't know that we can do it for this budget, but I think it's a great conversation to have on how to really rebalance how we spend the city's monies in an equitable way. So I agree with you. I was trying to say that last Tuesday.
Okay, and then we may want to come back and talk about how to incorporate the walk, bike, and the other strategic plan inputs on those that do have ratings. So I would just, if there's any further discussion on how to incorporate the equity piece, I don't feel like we finished that.
Councilman Withers.
Thank you so much, Chair Vercher. I recently read a newspaper article that sort of, in the Nashville Business Journal, that sort of reignited my thinking about some of these multipliers, in particular with regard to equity.
One moment, Councilman Withers, I'm sorry. So just real briefly, will y'all have any more questions for department heads as it relates to this process?
This one would be for the.
Okay. I was trying to let them go. Okay.
And so what it is, but just briefly, is that there historically have been, for example, with regard to resolving equity, especially pertaining to poverty and sometimes health and education outcomes, there had been eligibility for certain projects through community development block grants, which is now somewhat being replaced by certified opportunity zones. And so there may be particular grant or private investment opportunities that become available for certain areas that have economic, health, or education disparities. In other words, some projects could be prioritized differently because there may be either outright grant funding or matching funding or things like that. I'm trying to think through how those might work because we haven't had a lot of time to spend with the certified opportunity zones. But I'd be interested in hearing from both planning and especially from Public Works and maybe Finance, if they have any thoughts about how that might work, that we as a body could say that these items are our priority, not just because they help us to resolve a disparity in our community, but also because there may be other funding opportunities to help us get that done for our county.
Mr. Claxton, is there a way for you guys to identify the request in the CIB that's in the opportunity zones?
Yes, that's information we can provide. It's not currently factored in. But
And it's not an indicator on the CIB either, on the document.
It's not currently used because they're so new.
You want it from Director of Finance?
But just if any of the departments had any feedback, I just thought that would be
Do any of the departments have any feedback? Metro Water, Public Works? No? And they probably wouldn't, Councilman, because we're trying to figure out how we're gonna score. So they probably would not. Okay. So any more discussion? Councilwoman Allen.
Thank you. One more question. Last year, I think we just gave each council member 100 points.
100 points.
Period. And we didn't worry about dollar amounts so that someone could put their whole 100 points on a $20 million project, and they might get all $20 million of our $30 million sidewalk budget if they were the #1 sidewalk on the list. Are we comfortable with that?
It's up for discussion. Chairman Bettany?
Well, that's one of the things that I said before, that we need to agree as a body how we want to prioritize things. So, I mean, I'm honored that you're asking me, but really, I think it's a good question, and we should really look into that. But I don't have an answer for you. I don't even think it matters what I think. What matters is what we all think.
Anyone for discussion? I think the whole process of the scoring is that the council member, they know their districts, they know their districts best. I think in moving forward and refining the process, we should encourage each other to discuss what our priorities are in our respective districts. I think once we begin to gel in that aspect of the process, I think we'll end up with the results that we want on the end, particularly with some of the things that we discussed tonight, as including getting the prioritization list from the departments and knowing how CIB requests align with the capital spending plan. But again, it's up to the body and it's up for discussion. Councilman Pulley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I understand Councilor Allen's concern, and it's a valid one. Absent a suitable alternative, I would support this plan. It seemed to work okay last year, although I'm sure there may be some of those pitfalls that we may face. But I can't think of a suitable alternative to it at this juncture myself. So that being said, I support what you have going on here.
Okay, and just want to remind also, last year, the scoring was only for council district members. We did not allow at-large council members to weigh in on the scoring. So if we want to, are we okay with keeping that same format? We don't have any at-larges present, so. Councilwoman Allen.
Just one more question. Would they be the logical ones perhaps to work with the departments? I'm still concerned, or just wondering how to integrate the two sort of separate lists, the council list and the department list. Would the large members be a logical group to sort of work with the departments and say, you know, does it make sense for them to score the department-wide things or something? I'm just thinking out loud.
I mean,
because we still haven't answered that question. So
we have not. So I know last year the Councilman Mendez, it was actually his recommendation that the at-larges did not participate because he could see district council members, you know, lobbying them for points for their respective projects. But to have them bridge that list from the departments with our list, we have to simply ask. Yeah, I mean, no one is here to speak on the at-large's behalf.
And maybe what I would suggest is just perhaps have them try that, and then we can just look and see what it looks like. And if it looks ridiculous, then we've learned something.
Yeah, and I would voluntold, but I've used those up quite a bit, so I don't feel comfortable voluntoling any of the at-larges. My military people get that reference. Chairman Bettany.
We can do like they do on committee meetings. You know, the people that are not there, they get to pay the bill. So we'll just tell them. You know, we just task you.
Yes, I just want to make sure we'll still use our spreadsheet, 100 points per district council member. Okay. Councilwoman Johnson, Mina Johnson. There you go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm basically agreeing with that, scoring system using the same mechanism as last year, but I just noticed there's empty seat in this So how are we advocate for that particular district? So are we appoint,
There's
at large
already been
to
an
fill-
appointment for District 29.
Okay.
That's Councilman Mendez.
Okay, just wanted to be, fair to each district.
That's a great point, Councilman Johnson. Chairman Bettany, are we at a point to wrap up? We know what we're doing, clear as mud?
Yeah, I think it was great. I want to thank everybody from the departments, the mayor's office, the planning department, and the council members for being here and helping us do this better. So thank you very much, and Merry Christmas to you all.
And before we adjourn, I want to encourage each and every one of you too. We do have the Blue Ribbon Commission underway. Any suggestions, please send those to us. Also, we'll be utilizing the SharePoint again for this budgetary process so that you can see what I'm asking departments and what they're responding, what their responses are, so that we're all on the same accord. But for our prioritization, we'll essentially use the same scoring and process as we did last year, with the expectation that we're going to receive those departmental prioritizations moving forward. Any more discussion? None. Thank you, department heads, for being here. Truly, we couldn't do this without you. And thank you, committee members and council members that participated in the discussion to help our process work for us and not against us. So thank you so much, and we are adjourned.
Good job.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.